Welcome everybody to the Hypetrain podcast. I'm Mike.
Matt.
And I'm Corey, Dragoon Exorcist and head of the intelligence division at True Cross Academy.
Everything's an academy with you.
Yeah.
Like when are you going to graduate? I don't even know.
That one is an anime, or is it the Dragoon video game series?
No, it's an anime.
It's an anime. Okay, just Dragoon?
No, it's Blue Cross, or not Blue Cross. It's Blue Exorcist.
Blue Exorcist. Got it. Great. Learned so many different animes from just this little tiny segment of our podcast. I'm just like, oh, look at this thing I fucking found out is a thing. Anyway.
One of my top 10 animes. It's fantastic.
Now for the summary, we're a trailer review podcast, but we're fans of all sorts of things, and sometimes we just want to give you guys recommendations on stuff that we like and we think that you might like. So we're doing another Guilty Pleasures episode. Now, I remember in the last episode, Matt, you kind of compared it to being the Chef Boyardee of movie picks, but I feel like these, or at least mine, isn't really a Chef Boyardee. I don't even.
You clearly have a different understanding of what guilty pleasure means than Corey and I do, and that's fine. That's fine.
Well, like, because even this pick, which I was just thinking, I'm like, is this really a guilty pleasure? Because it's like it's pretty popular, and especially it's pretty renowned.
Yours is a very cult classic guilty pleasure.
Half of my notes about it are trying to justify why you think this is a guilty pleasure.
Oh yeah, I think what it was I guess we'll just get into it. You know what? Enough talk about this. Let's check it out and then we'll talk about it. So this is the trailer for Oldboy. It's my pick. It's a guilty pleasure. It's kind of really just a pleasure, but I'll get into that. Let's just play the damn thing.
오늘도 역시 대충 수습이 안 된다. 난 이제 괴물이 돼버렸다. 못 끝날 것 같아. 이제 복수심이 아니라 내 성격이 돼버렸어. 누가 날 가뒀을까? 15년 동안 당신을 지켜봤어요. 상처받은 자한테 복수심만큼 잘 되는 사람도 없어요. 한번 해봐.
복수하고 싶어서가 아니라 왜 그랬는지 알고 싶어서 싸운다고 했죠?
오대수 씨, 오랜만에. 복수가 다 이뤄지고 나면 어떨까? 아마 숨어있던 고통이 다시 찾아올.
All right, so that was the trailer for Oldboy, and I didn't warn anybody that it would be full of subtitles so that you need to watch the screen, but hopefully you watch the screen. If not, maybe you were just confused about what was happening, and that's totally fine. Because if you haven't checked out this movie, you should. I mean, I don't really know if it fits the criteria of guilty pleasure completely. It was mainly a response to, like, I saw a video about the differences between this movie and its remake with Josh Brolin that Spike Lee did, and it's just total garbage. And if people have ever, like, if you didn't experience this Oldboy, and so people experience the one with Josh Brolin, they're missing out on so much. I mean, it's a vengeance movie, and it's part of a vengeance trilogy that I actually learned afterwards. I mean, I just was really a big fan of this movie, but the director Park Chan-wook, and forgive me for pronouncing all of these names probably wrong. I'm just an ignorant American, so it's just what it is. But the director has a vengeance trilogy This is the second one of, as it said in the trailer there, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance was the first one. And looking into that movie looks like really crazy. And then there's Lady Vengeance is the third one. So if you are a fan of this, check out those, because I didn't even know they existed until looking into it. But this movie was super well received. This one, I mean, if you are familiar with it, it has a huge, in terms of what it depicts, is pretty shocking. Roger Ebert stated that Oldboy is a powerful film, not because of what it depicts, but because of the depths of the human heart which it strips bare. That's his quote for this film. And it's just Spike Lee, in my opinion, completely missed the point of that. And it's hard not to like go into a lot of the details of this film without giving anything away. One of the big things that you saw in the trailer was the hallway fight scene. And that was one of a lot of critics praised that because it was something, it was a one-shot fight scene that they did in a crowded hallway. The images of that are just great. And it definitely in that trailer was trying to, I think, be like the action hook for people to kind of get into this. But the movie is just so much more than that. I mean, I could talk about this for a while. So let's just go on to you guys who, haven't seen the movie. And if any have any questions or something, maybe I can try to answer them. So I'll give it to Corey first.
All right. So when you picked this, like Sanford had kind of said earlier, I was more like, Fernandez is picking one of the or as far as my mind and everything I've been heard, one of the most prolific cult classic Korean movies of all time. Like every now and then, I'll just start cruising through a list on BuzzFeed or blah blah blah, Yahoo, AOL, all the stuff that doesn't exist anymore, and I'll get to a list that'll be like, these are the top 15 foreign films of all time, and Oldboy will almost always be in like the top 5. So I've heard of this movie and have heard about it, and then I remember when the Oldboy US version came out, a lot of people being angry and me thinking, well, I'm not going to see that. I haven't seen the original yet, and then it just kind of washing away. I'd actually intended on watching Oldboy at some point this week, so I would have a little more to talk about and I could give my first impressions. But I got too busy, fell through the cracks. But now that we're here, that trailer, first of all, is just so glorious, and it's so well put together, and the neon and the visuals and the music, all of it just hypes you up so much for this one man's track of revenge that he's been waiting 15 years for. So as far as trailers go, it did everything I would want a trailer to do. It got me excited, it got me intrigued, and it made me want to actually go further and see the movie. So well done on that aspect, even though this was for like the 4K like re-release, right? I think is what it said.
The problem was that like there were a lot of trailers for this film that were either pretty dated or, the ones in English didn't do it justice enough. And like, yeah, at least I felt that way, because it was especially trying to appeal, I think, to an American market with a trailer for a foreign film is tougher. So, they'll change things or they'll dub it weird. And I just felt like this one was, it was subtitled, so it at least portrayed the movie better. Which is why I forgot to say, but I wanted to even say, like, make sure you do watch this with the subtitles on. I know we had a conversation in a past episode about people not wanting to watch films with subtitles, but just it really shows to the acting of especially the main character Choi Min-sik as Ode-soo, who's been in a lot of different Korean films, very prolific in that. But it's some of the best acting I think I've ever seen. And on my DVD, it has like a dubbed version, and I tried it out just to see how these English actors portrayed it, and it's so awful because they don't hit the same emotion or in the regular actor's voice, and especially a lot of things get lost in translation between American culture and Korean culture and stuff like that. So it's definitely something to experience with subtitles. So
I haven't seen this movie, but I'll go a little further. I'll go a little harsher. If you're a person who is watching a foreign movie and is able to read subtitles, but you instead opt for a dubbed version, you are doing yourself a disservice. You're taking away, part of the film from yourself for no good reason. Don't let friends watch dubs, basically, is the idea when it comes to live action movies.
Just a little rant about the remake. Like, if you have seen the Josh Brolin version, this is just talking to anybody out there in the world that listens to this. It's like all the characters' motivations are messed up. All of like the scenes that actually mattered to like build a character in this version, they totally dumbed it down for you. All the little nuanced things that people can figure out as human beings themselves through a way better storytelling method that this movie does. The original just like dumbs it down everything and waters down stuff, but it tries to like in the trailer you find out he's been in prison for 15 years. For instance, the Spike Lee version, he's like, well, let's up it to 20 years. He's been in this thing for 20 years. It's like, but it has no weight whatsoever on the actual story. It's just he wanted to like one up. And there are the gory scenes in Oldboy, they're kind of at least a little more justified. And the gory scenes in the remake are just trying to one up and be, more of a shock value to it. And it's so bad and does this version such a disservice. I think that it's the main reason I picked it for this episode, was just being like, check this one out. Don't touch the Josh Brolin thing. And I like Josh Brolin. He's a decent actor, but Spike Lee
gotta
dropped
cancel
the ball.
Spike Lee.
So
let's cancel his
ass. Shall we move on to Matt? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this movie, its reputation, I haven't seen it, but its reputation precedes itself. It's one of those things where it's like, this movie just looks so oppressively, it looks so good, but it looks so oppressively dark in tone that like, it's also, that's why I have the DVD, but I haven't watched it, because it's like you have to be in the mood to watch a really dark movie. I don't know. This doesn't fit my understanding of what a guilty pleasure is, but whatever. I've decided that you think it's a guilty pleasure because your guilty pleasure is anything Korean for some reason.
I think, well, like I said, the guilty pleasure episodes are just for us to talk about what we want to. And I want to talk about this. So
yeah, that's totally good. I'm glad you picked it.
Let's check out an actual family film then. So Corey, this is your pick. Why don't we move on to it?
All right, ladies and gentlemen. After all that heavy, dark, depressing Korean film stuff, why don't we cleanse our palates with something that everyone can enjoy, and that's the music, man. The music. This is my guilty pleasures pick: Blues Brothers 2000.
On February 6th, from Universal Pictures, the Blues are back.
I'm getting the band back together.
The last time they played anywhere, they were charged with grand larceny, felonious motor vehicle assault, and damages in excess of $20 million. And you are asking me if I want to join this band?
I could show you all the moves.
My God! Help us!
And this is Mighty Mac, the new lead singer in the band.
I said, hey, come on, everybody, take a trip with me. Stop the music!
Dan Aykroyd, John Goodman, Joe Morton, James Brown, Aretha Franklin, B.B. King, Paul Schaefer, Erica Badu, Travis Tritt, Bo Diddley, Dr. John, Steve Winwood, Wilson Pickett, Blues Traveler, Johnny Lang, and many more.
The Blues Brothers Band? I thought you guys were all in jail.
Written by Dan Aykroyd and John Landis. Directed by John Landis.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the trailer for probably my second favorite movie of all time, Blues Brothers 2000. I adore every aspect of this movie. So to give some explanation to that, let me take you back. It's 1990, let's say 9, and me and Pops are chilling on the couch, and we watch this on VHS, and it's fucking fantastic, and it blows my mind, and the music flows through me, and every part of me falls in love with every single aspect of this movie, even though at that point I hadn't seen the original Blues Brothers. So like I was just like, oh, this is an awesome thing. And then later on, Pop showed me the original Blues Brothers. But because this was my first interaction with Dan Aykroyd and John Goodman and fucking Joe Morton and the kid who plays Buster Blues, and then all of these famous musicians who at the time I was just starting to learn about, I think it's safe to say that this film had a very powerful impact on what shaped me as a music fan and a musician all together. And there's just everything about this movie was laid out so perfectly, and only for me to later on figure out that like it had a lot of problems. Like John Landis and Dan Aykroyd at one point almost quit the film during production because of all the changes the studio was forcing upon them. John Goodman and Dan Aykroyd didn't get paid for these roles at all, just to keep the budget studio friendly. Like, to look back and see what is often listed as like the worst sequels of all time, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. The soundtrack is phenomenal. The guest appearances are so good. You know, my one problem with that trailer is like all those famous musicians they were listing don't show up until like the last 5 minutes of the film for like the big final band playing. Yeah. So they were like Travis Tritt and Paul Schaefer and Dr. John, and I'm like, you see them for a whole 3 minutes.
and friend of the show, Bo Diddley.
Bo Diddley. You know, BB King is there.
He's in Rockula tons more than he's in this movie.
Most assuredly. but that's what I have to say about this. Obviously this film was dedicated to John Belushi, to John Candy, to there was one more that they mentioned from the first film. Oh, Cab Calloway. The three of them were supposed to be in this film, obviously, but had passed before it was time. So their way of getting around that is they introduced John Goodman to take John Belushi's place, or to step into the lead singer role, as they said in the trailer. And then friggin' Joe Morton ends up playing Cab Calloway's son, or illegitimate son, because the story they weave is that Cab Calloway was just banging ladies left and right, as he should have. Yeah, like a true blues musician. But I love this film. So
yeah, his mom was Minnie the Moocher.
Oh man. So that's why I picked this. The music, just the acting, just all of it was fantastic. So if you guys have any thoughts or questions, I'd love to hear them. I'll kick it to Sanford first.
Yeah, I've seen this movie. It's fine. You know, it's really not that bad, like as people say. Like for a sequel that was made a million years after the original, where one of the stars was already dead, you know, it's as good as it can be. I did see the original Blues Brothers before this one, so obviously I like that movie more. But yeah, this movie, it's an okay time. I think they did well, getting John Goodman. He's an actual blues guy. He loves the blues. He's a crazy person, in an endearing way, unlike Dan Aykroyd, who's a crazy person in a crazy person way.
In a crazy person way.
Yeah. John Goodman is
UFOs.
Is really into the blues and everything. Otherwise, it's just sort of a lesser version of Blues Brothers. It does have a lot of good cameos in it, just like Blues Brothers did. This has nothing to do with anything, but this is my first note about Blues Brothers 2000 that I thought, Corey, you would specifically enjoy me saying on the show. So I'm just going to read it verbatim. Saw a Totino's commercial before this video ran, and they made an attack on pizza bagels. Mutiny.
Mutiny.
Yeah, so in summation, Blues Brothers 2000, it's okay. You kind of have to, if you really want to enjoy this movie, you kind of have to be 12 or like 11, like when Corey was when he saw it. I watched it probably when I was 14, and I had already seen Blues Brothers, and I was just too late. But it's fine. Also, in summation, Totino's needs to shut up. Pizza bagels are better.
Shut the fuck up. All right. Before we kick to Fernandez, I want to say one of my favorite quotes from Blues Brothers 2000, and it's when Elwood is trying to break away from Buster, and he goes, "Stay away from drugs, gangs, and cyber porn on the internet, and you can be president of the United States someday." And then he just leaves Buster at the library and walks away.
All right, Fernandez, thoughts on Blues Brothers 2000 and or Totino's versus Pizza Bagels?
Pizza Bagels.
I don't care about either of those at all. But Blues Brothers 2000, I do remember this when I was younger, probably around the same age, like 14 or whatever. I remember renting it, I think, because I had seen the first, the original Blues Brothers first with my dad. And then when this came out, it was something, we did want to rent because we were fans of the original. And my main thing for me at that time was like, oh my God, the kid from Three Ninjas Kick Back is in this as, Buster. Because he wasn't the original. He was Tum Tum in Three Ninjas Kick Back, but not in the first one. The first one was a different actor. And then he was it. And then what's weird is the second one, Three Ninjas Knuckle Up, the cover has the actor who plays Buster as Tum Tum, because it came out like afterwards, but it was still filmed in between the two. But the actor in the film of Three Ninjas Knuckle Up was the one from the first one. So it's kind of weird. I have a lot of weird Three Ninjas facts, but this movie, I remember it's weird because it is like a little bit more watered down. I mean, there is like a scene I remember where they go into like a strip club and stuff. And the kid and Buster's, he's just a little kid, whatever. But it feels more watered down because I don't believe the first Blues Brothers is that much of a like family film. It is pretty fun, but it's definitely, there's a lot more, references to more adult things. I think in the first one, a lot more swearing and stuff too. And I think they toned that down in this version. To make it a little bit more family friendly. The one thing I do remember was it stood out was Erykah Badu's scene in the film.
Yeah,
because she was because all of a sudden magic starts happening.
Yeah, she's a witch.
Yeah, and like voodoo and stuff. And I was it's just weird because there's nothing else was like that. But
there's a lot of supernatural elements in the movie. But remember, when what's his name, Cab Calloway's illegitimate son tracks them down, he's just like, "This is my God-given destiny." Then he just levitates into the air, he floats and magically transforms
into the sky,
into a Blues Brother.
So yeah. You're right.
Exactly, come out of left field.
Yes, a lot of weird stuff like that. Yeah, turning into a Blues Brother thing.
I love it.
Was always weird. So I don't know. I mean, it's weird too. I do remember because this movie did hold the world or the record for most cars destroyed in a production of a movie. And you saw some of that in the trailer, and I do remember that as being a huge thing. and that the like because the pile up of those police cars in different cars was just so outrageously like ridiculous that it was very funny when I was younger. And then reading the Wikipedia, G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra surpassed their record, and that just pisses me off. Because it's like, really, like, give the Bruise Brothers that one, because they actually use that as like a point in the scene to be funny. And G.I. Joe: The Rise of Cobra just destroyed a bunch of stuff in the city, so they just surpassed and got the record or whatever. There's no like scene in G.I. Joe where like they show a pile up of cars. But let's see. Little side notes is, I guess Jim Belushi was supposed to be in the movie, but he signed on for the ABC drama Total Security and wasn't able to do it.
Good.
This probably get cut out, but Jim Belushi has he had a show that me and my dad were watching where he has a weed farm, and in it there's parts where he actually realizes he can do he needs Dan Aykroyd's blessing, but he can do a Blues Brothers branded weed that will probably be hitting stores soon. It is in Illinois, actually, in Skokie. They sell it.
What?
So if you want Blues Brothers weed, you go to Skokie. Go to one of the places out there. But yeah.
I was just looking around on the Blues Brothers 2000 IMDb page just now, and one of the related pieces of news was that I guess 2 months ago, the Vatican declared the Blues Brothers as a Catholic classic, like the original Blues Brothers. Yeah,
that makes sense.
But yeah, like you guys both said, it is for sure watered down. The original Blues Brothers was a very hard R rating, and this could be what John Landis and Dan Aykroyd had actually argued with the studio about.
Oh yeah, I'm assuming
changes that they made, to get the PG rating or PG-13, whatever it was.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't dislike the movie at all. It's just I think I like the other one better. The music is good in it though.
I adore this soundtrack, but I also adore the soundtrack from the original film. So
yeah,
just a good time. But
Corey, so where can we find this if we want to, stream it? Where can we watch it?
I think much like Oldboy, I don't know that this is just like available anywhere to stream for like free. You can rent it on Prime for sure and Vudu for sure, but I don't actually know that it's anywhere. Unless anyone can Google faster than me. Like, I have this on Blu-ray, so along with the original. So if I ever want to watch it, I'm just going to pop it in the old PS4.
PS4.
The old PS4. All right. Unless we have any more nonsense to ramble off on Blues Brothers 2000, I think I shall kick it off to Sanford to wrap up this episode, at least for the final trailer.
All right. My guilty pleasure that I chose this week is a very, very somber, very serious, hard look at what it's like living as a fabricated American in a flesh American's America. This is Greg the Bunny, the Fox series.
Remember all those cute puppet shows growing up?
You do your lines with feeling, or I'm going to rip the stitches out of your ass.
Let's turn this mother out! Well, this isn't one of them. This March, Fox presents a new comedy where the puppets are pulling all the strings.
You're different from any other guy I've ever met.
Seth Green and American Pie's Eugene Levy.
Show me the bunny.
Greg the Bunny, a new comedy coming this March to Fox.
Thank you so much.
That's just a hug, Greg.
All right, that was Greg the Bunny. Some of you may know Greg the Bunny as a completely different thing. This is an odd relic of the early 2000s. Greg the Bunny, he's a puppet that they would do sketches between movies on IFC, like based on independent films and other things like that. And then for some reason, they decided to make a wacky network sitcom with the character as well. To set the scene, because that trailer, which is really more of a commercial, doesn't necessarily do it. In the show, Greg is a children's entertainer in a world where puppets and humans live side by side with hilarious consequences. This was still when Fox was in its very like, we're not like those other networks phase, like that they were founded on, and they were still going through that in the early 2000s, where they were like, well, our shows are wacky and zany and they're way more edgy than like what your grandpa watches on CBS. And the show does have an element of that, but I feel like the commercial and the trailer was really pushing that a little more than it actually is in the show. Ultimately, when you boil it down, it's just a wacky sitcom with some good actors. You have Seth Green, Sarah Silverman, and the man who's just cleaned up the Emmys this year, Eugene Levy, who, is a legend, along with a whole bunch of wisecracking puppets. What can go wrong with that? To give a good understanding of what Greg the Bunny is actually like, in my favorite episode, Seth Green and the titular Greg the Bunny are roommates. Seth Green starts dating a woman who has this aggressive dog who likes to attack Greg when no one's watching. So when Seth Green goes to a Pinot Noir festival with the girl, which Greg responds, Jimmy, we used to make fun of words like Pinot and Noir and festival. The dog tears at him. So Greg calls his co-hosts, one of whom is a shell-shocked Vietnam vet who just field neuters the dog and then replaces his testicles with commemorative eyeballs that are supposed to play Mr. Bojangles. That's the level of comedy. It is 100% a guilty pleasure. It's zany. It doesn't make you think. It's just goofy. I guess that's really all I have to say about it. It's the sort of thing I think of when I think of a guilty pleasure. Something that you're not proud of liking, but it's going to make you laugh. The cast is good and they're having a good time. That's really all I have to say about it. I'm going to kick it off to Mikey, see what you have to say about it.
Yeah. When you pick this trailer, and having to look into it, just to go into again, kind of just a little bit more of a recap of what this show is and what happened. Just because like what you were saying with when it was on IFC, I was looking into it and I found all these videos of the IFC version of Greg the Bunny,
which is totally different.
Well, yeah, but it's all totally parodies.
It's
sketches.
It's film parodies.
Because you said it was just like sketches about indie film, but there was like parodies of like there's a Pulp Fiction one and this and that, and that's like nothing of what this show is at all. So if you ever heard of Greg the Bunny with that version, do yourself a favor, check out this one because I think it is much funnier. And I think they're like 2 years apart when the show got canceled and then got picked up by IFC again. Kind of to spoil the part where we say where you can watch it, it's free on YouTube. So I watched the first 3 episodes, and the third one being the one where you summarized there, Matt. But the first one, like, my takeaway from it was like, oh, it's interesting because it's the universe where puppets exist. It's not like really addressed. It's like everyone's comfortable with it. The puppets are just there as regular people, but they're obviously puppets, and so like they play off that a lot, and it's pretty funny. The premise of the show, it's set on like a kid show that Eugene Levy's character is like the producer or the main producer for, executive producer, and it's called Sweet Knuckle Junction. And that's where all these puppet characters are actors on this show for kids. So it's funny because you get like Warren's character on the show. He's Professor Ape or Dr. Ape or whatever, and he's incredibly stupid, and that's the whole point of like him on the show. But then off of camera of the show, the juxtaposition of that is that he's like a Shakespearean almost type actor.
He's like a Juilliard
trained actor and everything like that.
He's a thespian, basically.
Yes. So I mean, like when I was watching, I'm like, oh, it's almost like a workplace comedy. At least the first episode is, because there's even like handheld camera work, like reminiscent of like The Office and stuff like that when I was watching it. But because it has puppets, it adds like this really goofy element to it. But the other thing that I wanted to say was that it kind of reminded me, just in that juxtaposition of like the characters working on a kid show and then off camera being like very crass and obscene on a lot of things that they say and do, because like there's a lot of, it isn't a kid's show, but there's a kid's show portrayed in it. But anyway, it's do you guys remember ever having rumors of like, I remember there was a rumor when I was a kid that like the actor who played Barney on the Barney Kids show was like drunk in an episode.
Oh
or
yeah,
was smoking.
there were always these like
underneath the thing.
playground rumors.
Yeah. So like it
an
just kind of
episode
reminded me like that you're getting to see the behind the scenes stuff. And I remember there was a rumor that like Steve from Blue's Clues killed himself and all this stuff. But in reality, and this is something you should check out, is Steve from Blue's Clues, Steve Burns, has been releasing a lot of music in the past few years. And check it out. He has a song called I think it's Little Mighty Man. Little things like that. It's interesting.
He's gone on record as saying he really didn't want to go bald on children's television. So
okay.
Yeah, because I remember like a year or so ago reading an article where he was like, yeah, I didn't want to quit. I loved what I did, but I also didn't want like the writers or makeup people or have to explain to the kids why I was going bald. And I didn't want to like document that part of my life. So I just bowed out.
Yeah.
Which was a very like cool thing for him to do. He could have just been like, fucking slap a wig on me and let's make 100 more episodes.
But yeah, check out his music actually under Steve Burns. I think he's underrated. He's actually really good. And I think it sucks because he has a stigma of the guy from Blue's Clues, so I think it's harder for him to actually break out into music. I don't even think he's doing it anymore, but
that is Fernandez's plug for the episode.
Yeah, pretty much. Speaking of music, though, the little tidbits that I found out that I thought were cool were that there were two bands that were approached to do the theme song for the show, and both got rejected. The first one, I'll do the one most people probably know. The band Ween was approached to do a song for the show, and it got rejected. I looked it up on YouTube, and it's kind of funny. So I might put that at the end of the episode as our like tie or end music, and at the beginning, I might put in this really weird song that this band Hyperjinx Tricycle did, featuring Daniel Johnston. And if you don't know who Daniel Johnston is, check out the documentary, The Devil and Daniel Johnston. It's great. He's a pretty prolific songwriter. He's definitely out there in his songs, but a lot of people like the Flaming Lips cover his songs, a lot of other famous artists. But that song's really weird, and I'll probably do that as our like intro song. But yeah, that's it.
Right.
This is cool stuff. Daniel Johnston, Ween, Steve Burns,
Hyperforce, Tricycle Man,
Hyperjinx Tricycle.
Listen to all of them. All the things. Listen to all music. Why don't you just listen to all music forever? All right, viewers, come on.
And back to the episode. Greg the Bunny is really funny. I forgot how funny it was until I watched it on YouTube because of Matt's pick. So I will jump over to Corey and we'll give him some Greg the Bunny time. Time for Greg the Bunny time. Corey time.
All right, so we're at me now, and I don't really have much to add. I vaguely remember this show coming out, but I don't think it was ever like on my I need to sit down and catch every episode radar. And then like I remember like it coming out on DVD and still being like, oh, that's cool. And I'd seen like bits and pieces here and there, but it was never anything that was like, this is so good to me, or what I'm catching is so good that I need to like sit down and watch all of this all the way through. But now that we're older, a little wiser, and now that I know all of it's on YouTube, I'm for sure gonna take some time to sit down and like watch this all the way through and see if like to me I had actually missed out on something that could have been really cool at the time. But it might be something that aged just as well, because you guys like Fernandez, you just recently watched it and said it was pretty good. So
yeah, like Sarah Silverman. I was gonna say Sarah Silverman's not annoying in it. She's pretty good. But anyway.
Oh, Britt is in this. No, I think Sarah Silverman is great in some things and not so much in other things.
I agree with that statement.
Michael
The
Fernandez
last thing that I was wondering if Matt was actually going to say about this, that I found on the Wikipedia for Greg the Bunny, and then found the video for on YouTube, was Greg the Bunny was mentioned and then featured in an episode of Duel Masters, which was a kids anime.
I am not familiar with this.
Yeah, so it's on the Wikipedia, and it's a kids anime where it's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh or Magic the Gathering.
Yeah, I mean,
what is Duel Masters?
Yeah, check it out. But I'm gonna put the video up in our episode. But Greg the Bunny is part of in Duel Masters, a different universe, but he is the second greatest Duel Masters player in the universe. And they show a picture of him holding Duel Masters cards in the episode, and I was floored because I thought I was reading the Wikipedia page about it, and I'm like, oh, this has got to be fake. This has got to be someone messing with people on the Wikipedia. And then I check it on YouTube, and there it is, Greg the Bunny on an episode of Duel Masters. So
that is
holy shit.
Not what I was expecting you to say.
Oh, so it's like Magic the Gathering and Yu-Gi-Oh had a horrible baby.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. It doesn't even look like it's a real thing, but this is an anime and a manga and an actual game.
Yeah, like my thing is there's always like these animes.
Oh,
like
it was
Yu-Gi-Oh
made by Wizards of the Coast.
Oh, was it really? Well, Wizards of the Coast has their hands in a lot, like Pokemon's Wizards of the Coast. Anyway, do you guys want to? Because I bet I could find the video again. Do you guys want to see it?
Yeah.
I've never been more excited for any.
I just hope it doesn't look too much like shit on your guys.
Someone's filming this on their phone.
Yes, that's the problem. Is this is the only thing I have of it.
Oh my god.
Good show.
Crap. Oh, it's like fucking freezing on mine. There we go. Can you guys still see it?
Yeah. I bet if I was 10, I would have thought this was the best fucking show on the planet.
There he is. Kaijudo me, Kaijudo you.
I have so many questions.
Get on eBay right now. How much does a pack of Duel Master cards cost?
I did it, guys. I broke Matt. I did it. Never thought it would happen.
How did that come to be?
Right?
Because obviously,
right? Like it had to be somebody that worked on or something. I don't know, or someone just a fan. But and I was gonna say because if you had the DVD, there are 2 episodes that were never released, that never aired, but made it to the DVD. So
Are they on the
that's one thing to
Bluetooth?
check out too if you do like this series. So
I just put a bid on a lot of Duel Master cards, so we'll see.
you refuse to get into Magic the Gathering, but Duel Masters
can't buy video games, but he's allowed to buy Duel Masters cards.
So those were our 3 guilty pleasures. Please check them out at your leisure, and tell us what you think in the comments below. Maybe try to prove me wrong that the new Oldboy is as good or better than the old one, and I will send you a signed copy of this Steve Kerr 1991 Topps card that I have right here.
Yeah, not signed by Steve Kerr.
No, signed by me.
Signed by Fernandez. Yeah.
Yeah. So I will sign that, and I will send that off to you. If you can come up with a myriad, I'll give you as many reasons as you try to quote and try to convince me that the new Oldboy is good. So we'll work something out.
If you
So check it out. Check out original Oldboy with subtitles. Check out Blues Brothers 2000. Break out that VHS player. Run it from Video in Motion. That's where I remember running it from.
It's got a Blu-ray.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then check out Greg the Bunny, which is like the only place I think is probably YouTube. I don't know, or finding a DVD off like
you can
eBay.
find the DVD.
Yeah, so those are like your options, I think, for that. Unless, it might even be streaming somehow. I haven't looked into it, but all right, guys, stick around. Check out other episodes. check out our. We're going to be releasing also a video game episode sometime in the future. Hopefully, our other episodes that have taken me forever to edit will come out. Hopefully, watch our reaction video or review video of Rockula, because it's great. It's a great movie. Check that out. And tell us what you think. So we're here for you in the comments below. Corey, I think it's time. Why don't you take us home?
All right. Hey, guys. I'm sure you're all enjoying this beautiful spring we've been having. It's very cool because, by the time Fernandez actually does edit this episode, I assume it's spring 2021, and we're all playing the Mass Effect Ultimate Trilogy remaster. So,
don't care.
So while you're sailing across the universe in your N7, make sure you're still taking care of yourselves. Make sure you're taking care of your friends and your family. No matter what happens on Earth, all that's really important is to be good and to be good to each other. So for the hashtag Hype Train, I'm Corey.
I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
And we will catch you guys on the next ride.
Choo choo! I can still hear you say, thanks for the memory. J'ai 300 la vie. Greg, t'es bunny. À boucher de plevant, croix du soleil, means all that we are is what we obey. And isn't love cheap, Greg the bunny?